So today I'll be showing you how to do some graphic representations of planting designs. Designing has been around since like the Romans invented it. They started doing all sorts of different equations and things. So drawing is not a new process, but it's the oldest process of showing how you're going to put plants in an area. This is mostly used for when a client, you like gain a new client if you're a landscaper or if you're an architect, and they have like, there's just a house and there's nothing around it, and they want to put some plants in it, maybe like some trees or shrubbery, or they want to put a pool in, and there's a few different steps that you go through that like make the organization process very easy to put in all the plants wherever they should go. So there's other methods, you can use computers and things like that, but this is the way that I've been learning it in my planting design class. So if everybody wants to come up, I can show you how we go through with this. So the first step is you're going to have like the outline of a house. You're going to have just basic, there's not going to be much around. The client, you're going to meet with them, you're going to start asking them questions. You know, they might have some ideas what they would like, or they might not. So maybe they'll say, like, you know, in the back area over here, we have a patio, but we would like more of like a grill with, you know, like rocks around it or something like that. A larger table area. So you're just going to start with like bubbles. So you're going to, you know, backyard, they want a sitting area. And then in the front yard, they might want something that kind of brings people to the right door. Maybe they have a side door and people get confused which door to go to or something like that. And they're going to want like larger gardens in the front. So you can start with some other bubbles in here. You know, you can do some plants. Maybe draw one around the front door. You know, bring people to the front. These are just your main ideas, so that you know when you look at this, you're not just looking at a blank house and going, well, all right, where do I start? This way you can say, all right, well, I'm going to put some plants here, have plants here. There's going to be a dining area here, and then you start laying out different things like your beds. So in this one, I have that there will be like a patio area here. There's some simple designs for the gardens that you would want to put in. And it's kind of like a basic process. The next step is you're going to start a general idea of what plants you want to put in. So you might want to put like a small bed of shrubs in the front and a couple of bushes. The general rules, you want to keep things in odd numbers. Even numbers are really picked up by the human eye. If you have 3s, you're just going to not even notice it. If you have 2, you're like, that looks funny over there. It's one of those weird things that Mother Nature does. So we're going to offset this with maybe some bigger trees, some smaller bushes in here, a little shrubbery in the front. You have a grill against the house. And you start with your basic concepts, and then you bring that into like a more full design where we have a table. We have all of our smaller shrubs in the front stepping up, and then have larger shrubs against the house. So a lot of the process when you go through that, trace paper is really nice because if you want to use, like if you want to see what something will look like maybe I want to put a big bed over here, or if I want to put you know, a pond over here, what do I want it to look like? And you can start to do that. So if I want to put these in here, I can say, all right, well, I kind of like the pond design like that. So if you want to make more of a kidney bean shape with the pond, you can do that. And you can bring in, this is just a stencil kit. It makes it real easy to draw in trees. Like that. So you go through, and you eventually wind up with your whole planting arrangement of distinct areas where you're going to put each plant and how what size it's going to be, in the shape and everything like that. And you do this in what it's going to be when it's fully grown. So not what you buy in Lowe's where you have a little a box elder tree that's this big. I'm talking a box elder tree that's 25 feet tall and has an 18-foot canopy. So that's what you're going to be showing on this drawing. When you put them in, the client's going to ask you, it's going to look a lot different because you said, you know, that was going to be a big tree there, and I just see that little tiny sprout. They need to understand, you have to tell them that. Everything's going to grow in and fill in. And that's a hard part. A lot of landscapers go through and bring in tons and tons of plants and fill out an area, and in 2 years you have to start taking stuff out because it's growing into each other, it's killing each other, and it just looks like a big cluster of too many things. So you have to lay out everything really well, and then you start going through and you have to, when you want to graphically represent what each plant is. So if I'm going to make all of these like an evergreen, I'm going to add a graphic symbol to them. So I'll do like a big line and a bunch of little ones. Go around the whole thing like that. So now you know that's an evergreen. And if I want this to be a boxwood, I can make like a little peace sign inside of it, just to represent a couple branches. Or on these, you can do little bumps. Maybe it's a deciduous tree. And that way, everything, when you look at it, you don't just see circles. You see that, okay, this is kind of like a pokey thing. And you're going to notice that it's here, and it's over here, and it's here. So you're going to notice that it's not just a bunch of circles, that there is areas that have different, they're all different plants. And that way the customer, or whoever you're trying to show this to, can kind of see what you're seeing from a different, it's hard, because that's one of the things that that you have to do with this, is really convey your ideas through this graphic process to them. And it's one of the hard things, but these symbols make it a lot easier. So after you go through, you're going to wind up with your full drawing, all of your trees, your shrubs. You can do a plain view, a view from the road in, just maybe give them another idea. You can do an isometric view also, which is kind of like a 45, like you're looking down on a chessboard where you can still see the grid pattern, but you can also see three-dimensional objects to them. You can do a drawing like that. You always want to make sure that you have a title block and a legend. So this shows what each one of my symbols represent. So that way the client, if they really want to know more about it, they can look and say, all right, this is a deciduous evergreen, and this is going to be like a cherry tree, or this might be an existing tree, and that's what your legend is going to tell them. So after all of this stuff, your client's really going to understand what your ideas are, and the way that you get there is through all these steps. Through the steps, it makes it a lot easier to say that you want a patio in the backyard with the stone and a grill. And that way you don't have to just start pulling stuff and making it perfect the first time you do it. It makes the steps so that everything culminates. You might have an area where you want a grill, but they also want a pool. And that if those circles are overlapping, you might have to change that and move things. And it's much easier to do that when you start off at one point and just get broad general ideas than have the whole thing on paper and have to erase or move. If you have an AutoCAD program, you start moving stuff around and it gets very confusing. So that's how you do basic planting design.